Welcome back, Focus Learners, to another explainer. Today, we're eagerly pulling back the curtain on something that looks, well, incredibly simple from the outside, but is actually a massive, complex architecture hidden just beneath the surface. We are talking about the deep systems of SaaS subscriptions. You select a plan, punch in your card details, and boom, you get access, right? Sounds simple. But the reality of what happens behind that basic act of taking a payment is literally one of the most fascinating engineering challenges in modern software. So let's dive right in.
Right off the bat, we need to smash the biggest misconception in the industry and totally shatter the illusion of the simple checkout flow. Look, a payment gateway like Stripe or Paddle simply collects money. It just processes the transaction. But your SaaS billing architecture, that's the brain of the whole operation. It decides exactly who gets access, exactly when they get it, what specific features they're allowed to use, and why. Confusing those two things is a fundamental architectural error.
So here is our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll look at the SaaS billing illusion. Second, plans, pricing, and consumption. Third, the subscription lifecycle. Fourth, product entitlements and limits. And finally, enterprise and observability.
All right, part one, the SaaS billing illusion.
Before we dive into the deep end of the architecture, we really have to acknowledge just how well disguised this complexity usually is. This quote perfectly captures our starting point. Billing is not just payment. Billing connects product, pricing, access control, finance, customer success, sales, support, compliance, and engineering. It is essentially the central nervous system of a SaaS business. A small bug in this architecture doesn't just mean a failed credit card charge. It could actually mean a canceled customer is still actively using your premium product. Or maybe a massive enterprise client is quietly bypassing their usage limits without ever generating an invoice. Just think about the sheer number of edge cases a real system has to handle. You've got payment failures, complex plan upgrades and downgrades, usage limits, specific feature access, grace periods, and proration. Dealing with all these edge cases proves that billing is absolutely not just some separate back-office finance feature. It's deeply embedded into the application's core architecture. Because think about it, if your application doesn't know how to handle a grace period, you are going to abruptly cut off access to a loyal customer just because their credit card happened to expire. Moving right along to part two, plans, pricing, and consumption. Now we're going to deconstruct how SaaS actually packages and sells its value through diverse and highly dynamic pricing models. And our corporate learning platform example here brilliantly illustrates what we call hybrid billing. Notice how the flat subscription fees are blended seamlessly with variable usage charges. You've got a base plan of £500 a month for 100 seats, but then you have these variable costs, £5 for every extra seat, plus usage-based charges for AI coaching credits once they blow past that included $50,000 allowance. This hybrid approach is great because it aligns the price directly with the value the customer receives and the compute costs the company incurs. But here is where you really have to put your system architect hat on. Ask yourself, what exactly counts as a billable seat? Is it an invited user who hasn't even accepted yet? Is it an active learner? What about a suspended account? Because listen, if your definition of a seat is vague in your backend, your customers will inevitably dispute their invoices. Seat counting has got to be totally transparent, auditable, and rigidly defined in your architecture. No exceptions. Now, alongside seats, usage-based metering is becoming increasingly dominant, especially with the rise of AI features and cloud-heavy products. We're talking about tracking API calls, AI tokens consumed, storage used, course enrollments, the whole shebang. But there's a real delicate balance here. If your system undercounts this usage, your company just bleeds revenue. But if it accidentally overcounts, you completely destroy your customers' trust with a massive shock invoice. Accurate aggregated metering is absolutely essential. Okay, part three, the subscription lifecycle. A subscription in SaaS is almost never just a simple binary active or inactive switch. It's a living, breathing lifecycle. Let's walk through this timeline of a standard 14-day free trial. On day 1, full access begins. Great. By day 12, the architecture triggers a warning notification. Then, by day 14, access downgrades automatically to read-only. These specific lifecycle states must be explicitly modeled in your code. Because a trial that just sits there and never forcefully expires, that becomes a permanent revenue leak. On the flip side, a trial that ends abruptly without any warning creates a terrible user experience that totally kills your conversions. And this lifecycle logic builds directly into the dunning workflow. Dunning is basically the process of handling failed payments and recovering revenue. Step 1, the payment fails. But you don't instantly lock them out, right? Step 2, you enter a grace period and notify the customer. Step 3, if it remains unresolved, then you suspend access. And finally, step 4, eventual cancellation. It's a delicate, automated workflow. You never ever want to immediately and aggressively suspend a valuable corporate client just because their bank flagged a routine charge. Which brings us to a massive, common mistake in SaaS architecture, confusing payment status with subscription status. Payment status is just a simple past tense fact. Did the credit card charge succeed? Yes or no? But subscription status? That is nuanced state logic. Is the user currently in a grace period? Are they past due but allowed read-only access? Or are they fully suspended? Relying only on payment status means your product doesn't actually know what access to grant.
All right, part 4, product entitlements and limits.
This brings us to the absolute climax of our architecture. What's really interesting here is the definition of an entitlement itself. An entitlement is basically an operational rule that defines what a customer is actually allowed to use. It fundamentally decouples your commercial pricing from your product permissions. Think about it. A commercial plan is something marketing invents, like a professional plan. An entitlement is the strict operational logic your backend uses, like single sign-on enabled equals true, or max seats equals 500. Okay, if there is literally one thing you take away from this explainer, let it be this: stop hard-coding plan names into your codebase. Checking if a plan equals enterprise to allow a feature is a fatal architectural flaw. Instead, your code should always check entitlements, like if can export reports equals true. Why? Because next year, your sales team might decide to move that export feature down to the professional tier. If you used entitlements, you just update a simple billing configuration. But if you hard-coded the word enterprise, well, your engineering team now has to rewrite and deploy brand new application code. Let's put this to the test with a downgrade stress test. Imagine a customer with 100 active logged-in employees downgrades to a 50-seat plan today. What exactly happens to the 50 extra active users? Do they just get kicked out mid-keystroke? Are their accounts deleted? You see, downgrades are never simple plan changes. They are highly complex entitlement reduction workflows. So here is how a solid architecture actually manages that downgrade mess. You got options. You could block the downgrade entirely until the admin manually deletes 50 seats. You could apply the downgrade immediately but automatically suspend the 50 newest users. Or, and this is most common, you apply the downgrade only at the end of the billing period to avoid abrupt disruption. Whichever route you choose, this logic must be defined back-end first to prevent surprise data loss and absolutely furious support tickets. Finally, part 5, enterprise and observability. This right here is the ultimate endgame for most successful SaaS platforms, landing massive B2B clients and maintaining absolute visibility over the system. So the crucial point is this number, £50,000. When an enterprise company signs a £50,000 annual contract for 2,000 learners, they are not typing a credit card into a generic checkout page. No way. They're demanding custom 30-day invoice terms, manual setup, and unique legal boundaries. And the second this happens, your standard automated self-serve credit card logic completely breaks down. Your architecture has to flexibly support both of these worlds simultaneously. Self-service billing is automated, immediate, and card-driven, but enterprise billing relies on manual invoices, offline bank transfers, and delayed payments. Yet, those enterprise users still need immediate access to the application based on custom negotiated usage limits. The system basically has to track offline payments while strictly enforcing custom entitlements inside the application itself. It's a real balancing act. To manage both of these worlds, you absolutely need deep, essential billing observability. We are talking about real-time metrics on monthly recurring revenue, active subscriptions, payment failure rates, usage overages, and seat utilization. If you lack observability here, your support teams are going to be flying totally blind. When a customer angrily emails asking why their access was suddenly revoked or why we were charged for 10,000 extra AI tokens, your team needs tools to instantly inspect the subscription state, the invoice history, and any entitlement changes. So, we'll wrap up this explainer with a provocative system design question for you to ponder. If your external billing API went down tomorrow, would your core product still know who is entitled to log in? Remember, billing is not just back-office plumbing. It is critical product infrastructure. Design it with the respect and precision it demands. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. Focused learners, keep architecting smartly, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.